race car driver. You need to be for a while.
You got to go over this direction. This direction over Everyone, thanks a lot for coming down. We got a receipt chain right here, Nick. He's going to talk about his crypto.
Yes. I realized. Hi guys.
Hey.
I'm Nick.
Woohoo!
See some people, some familiar faces. So I am in crypto and blockchain technology. So yeah, I mean it's Fintech, right? So I'm here to talk about a product that I am the co-founder of. It's called Receipt Chain, and it is actually a physical goods and digital goods non-fungible item tracking software. So we use cryptocurrency, but also we mainly use a new technology that we invented. We have some provisional patents for this, which is tracking of unique items, non-fungible items on a blockchain. And so that would mean things like cars, laptops, real estate, things like that. So we put the records for this on smart contracts onto a blockchain, just like Bitcoin has its own blockchain. Receipt Chain has its own blockchain, and on that blockchain we save data like name, description, location if necessary, VIN number if it's a car, certain parameters like that. And then what's interesting about this technology and how it's related to Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or any of those things is that now there's a permission that is associated with that data, and when you want to transfer that data to somebody else, the ownership of that data, the custodial ownership of that data, the ability to edit that data, you can send that ownership transfer the same way you would send Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that. You send it to their blockchain address. So you can send somebody the title to a house, or you can send somebody the title to your car. And so that's what Receipt Chain is. It's basically I built it into an app, but it has a backend that is a blockchain, and then the app interfaces the backend that interfaces the blockchain, which is like the backend. And then so we create these sort of digital records of goods, like this laptop, and then only you, the owner, can edit it. And then if you want to send it, you can go to the send screen. You can choose like the item that you want to send, and then you can scan somebody's QR code, and then you can send it to them, and then they become the new owner and the new person who's able to edit this data. So that legally, if you transfer this data to somebody, like physically, what they're capable of doing is editing it and transferring it to somebody else. But legally, there's nothing to say that, if I transfer you this data for this laptop, you are now the current real owner of this laptop. But I think that's going to change, and I think that's what I'm predicting, is that there are, in fact, laws. There's a law called AB 2658, which is a California bill that recognizes blockchain records. And what I'm predicting is that we will live in a world where these records have legal weight. And so if I were to transfer you the ownership record of a laptop that I received from the manufacturer, maybe in a pre-blockchain world, possession was 9/10 of the law, but in a post-blockchain world, the blockchain will be 9/10 of the law. And that's what I'm predicting. Then also, before all that, right now that's just pie in the sky. But to make this useful, I'm also creating a sort of like a cryptocurrency Craigslist, think like Letgo or Authra, and where you can use these files just as sort of a placeholder and buy and sell these files just then go meet with the person or have it shipped to you, and then you can pay in Bitcoin or Ethereum. And I'll probably be adding other cryptocurrencies to this later. So it's called receiptchain.io, and we are trying to work with different source manufacturers like handbags and designers. Jimmy Choo, Nike would be great. People like that who would create the source files and then give it to their customers. We're creating a desktop inventory version of this, and I just kind of want to get the word out there. I want to introduce this sort of like application to people. I want everybody to know that this exists and it's coming. And if you can go to the website, it's receiptchain.io, and check it out. You can check out our team. We're a lot of really good people on our team. There's 3 co-founders. It's not just me, even though I'm the one who's always out because everyone else works at regular jobs and I don't. So I'd love it for you guys to check it out. There's also it also has its own blockchain, this application. So that means that in order to pay the fees on it, you need to buy receipt coin in order to pay the transaction fees. And I don't want to get into how blockchains work exactly, but if you know how Bitcoin works, you have to pay like a Bitcoin fee in order to transfer it. So on our blockchain, you have to pay a receipt coin fee in order to like create data on our blockchain or to send data on our blockchain. So we actually have our own currency too, which is called receipt coin, and we actually have a really good reason for it, unlike a lot of companies who have no reason for it. You have to use the receipt coin in order to physically pay the transaction fees on our blockchain. We have that coin that happens to be in the system too, but we might cover it up at some point where you can pay the fees just in fiat, and then you don't have to know that's even there. But it's funny, I just mentioned that because it's actually trading on John's cryptocurrency exchange over there at ERCDex. Yeah, I mean, mainly I want to throw it out there. I want to get people interested in this concept, and if you want to know more about it or if you have some ideas, come talk to me, and I would love to, find out what you guys think. And that's it.
Any questions?
Yeah, are there any questions? Yeah.
I think an obvious question: why did you decide to build your own chain versus utilizing some of the infrastructure that's already out there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I actually started.
Somebody has to answer that.
Right. Well, no, you're somebody who happens to know more about how this stuff works, so you're going to ask that question. So I actually did start down that road at first, and so I started putting everything on Ethereum in smart contracts on Ethereum, and the problem was it was way too expensive.
Sure.
And so it got to the point where it was costing about. The first version was like 20 cents to create an object file, and 20 cents for an object file, and 7 cents to transfer. It's just too expensive. I kind of hacked Ethereum a little bit. I came up with this way to save data in the event log. I got a provisional patent about it, and I got creating objects down to 7 cents, and it was still too high, and everything was still too expensive. So then I finally. I got approached by this company called Beef Chain to put cows on the blockchain, and they wanted to do 3 million heads of cattle, and I just did the numbers. It just wasn't going to add up. So I came up with this sort of hybrid system, which I'm not the first one to invent. There was this hybrid system where you save your hashes, which is the proofs, your mathematical proofs of that if your latest hash on your blockchain, if you have that, then every single thing before that needs to add up through the mathematical hashing equation in order for that to match that hash. So all you need to validate an entire blockchain is the last hash. And if somebody were to change any element in the previous history of that blockchain, you would not be able to hash and get that same number. So what you do is you take that last hash of your blockchain and you put it onto a more decentralized blockchain. So what we do is we take our last hash of the receipt chain blockchain, which is an Ethereum clone, it's an exact Ethereum clone, and then we take that last hash and we put it onto the Ethereum main chain. So we have a private chain, which is hackable, which is not decentralized, right? I completely admit that. But if we were to change anything in our chain, then our last block hash wouldn't add up. And we can't change our last block hash that we put on the main chain. So we're sort of auditing ourselves onto the main chain. And that's what we're doing right now.
Pretty cool.
Thanks for that. Let's talk about that.
How often do you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How often do you put those like right into the Ethereum hash?
Yeah, right now it's 24 hours, but it's really cheap, so we could probably do it every minute or every hour. But yeah, I mean, haven't really decided what's the optimum case for that yet.
You said that there's a law currently being considered, I guess, in California, Senator.
Yeah.
Have you looked at other markets? I mean, a lot of times other countries will implement these sorts of things first. Have you looked at whether it is legal in the EU or Australia or anywhere like that?
I think, where is it? Yeah, there was some country in Eastern Europe that was doing medical records on the blockchain. That might be a good place to start with that. But I haven't really dug into that very deeply. But I mean, it's a good point. I would, we have a lot to go before we get there. But yeah, I think there are other countries are making further strides in blockchain laws faster than we are, and even so the most progressive state in the United States right now is Wyoming. Wyoming has really progressive blockchain laws, and California is not the best place for any of this. But
Why is that? Recognizing that?
Just recognizing just as far as the SEC is concerned, with us trading or us using our cryptocurrency, with us allowing people to buy it, allowing people to trade it, there's just a lot of gray area. And in Wyoming, for instance, they define that there is a such thing as what we call a utility token, and it has a legal definition. And so you can sit back and say that we have a clear road, but here there's no clear road. So it's tough here, and a lot of it is sort of a lot of it is just guessing, how the laws are going to turn out. But I think that the receipt chain is there's nothing receipt chain is doing that is that particularly scares me. Is we're not doing anything related to financial products per se. We're doing much more strict e-commerce, buying and selling goods. It's really traditional, and I don't think we're pushing any boundaries that the SEC would really care about. But it would be nice to have a designation. It would be nice to have to be able to submit a form and get a stamp and say you guys are good. And in Wyoming you can sort of do that, but you can't do that in California.
So can you trade baseball cards with it?
Yes.
I saw the NBL crypto recently.
Baseball cards, absolutely. That is
Is that ideal, maybe?
Yeah, that's ideal actually. Baseball cards, comic books.
All right, everyone. NBL crypto. This is the real deal right here. The actual baseball cards.
Yes. Yeah, so there's a few use cases that we think that shoes, everybody is pushing to do, Jordans and Nikes and the authenticity of these designer shoes is really, it just seems to be all roads point to shoes for some reason. And handbags is another one. A lot of people, want to track the authenticity of handbags. And so I just want to clarify what, so one of the things that people always bring up is if somebody has the file, somebody has a handbag file, and somebody has a handbag, and they say, well, how can I prove that this handbag is the real handbag, even though they've got this real file? So it's a very good question, and I'm just going to bring it up because everyone's going to ask it. So the point is so somebody comes to you and they're selling you a handbag, and they have this real authentic handbag file that came from Fendi, say, and then they have the handbag, and they're saying to you this is the real handbag. I promise you because I have this file. Well, there's nothing to guarantee you that handbag is real, but physically, what boundaries they're working within are that once they give you the file, if they give you if they won't give you the file, that's don't buy the handbag. But if they do give you that Fendi file, they can't do it again. You see what I'm saying? So economically, it doesn't make sense for somebody to be faking Fendi handbags because they can't fake the file. The one thing that that's physically, I want to say 99.999% impossible for them to do is fake that file. So it would be economically unsustainable for somebody to be selling fake Fendi handbags but have a bunch of real files that came from Fendi. So that's, yeah, I just want to kind of get to that.
So the number of Fendi files is limited anyway.
Well, because Fendi would be making them. Yeah. So it would be Fendi's job to be creating their own original files and signing them with their own private keys. So only Fendi, and then it's in a special secret box someplace, would be able to create these files with their private keys using our private public key technology that sort of like is the foundation for all this cryptocurrency. And so the only way that could be circumvented was like if somebody were to Mission Impossible, go into the Fendi factory, steal the private keys or whatever, or hack it or something like that. And that would be a whole ordeal unto itself. But if Fendi didn't know that happened, then likely there would only be a certain amount of these Fendi created files that are out there in the world, and the file itself would be worth more than the handbag actually. Yeah.
Well, they could do it once if they did like one on-chain transaction with like a counterfeit, and then they took the real bag and went to just the regular market.
Yeah, you could do it once. That's the thing. You could do it once. So I mean, it wouldn't be, you probably wouldn't be able to like have a whole industry over it, but you could do it once. It could happen one time. It could diverge, and so there's a whole set of things that could happen from that. But yeah, it could happen once, basically. Yeah.
So when you talk about handbag and shoes, that's my beloved. Only if you buy directly from Fendi. What if I buy a whole bunch of handbag from Fendi in Europe and I come back to the US and resell it?
Yeah. So the way that this software works, that the receipt chain software works, is that every time that handbag transfers, the person transfers it to the next person. So there's a receipt, there's an ownership history in the bottom that you can check in the bottom of every object. So you can scroll down to the bottom, you can see the list of owners. And so what you would be looking for is Fendi's. Well, what I can do with our software is I can actually replace. There's an Ethereum address that it's owned by. If they're registered, I can replace their Ethereum address with Fendi's logo. And so what you'd be looking for is Fendi's logo in the history.
So, does that mean this could also prevent people sell a second-hand fake Fendi? Because you have the number or license or contract, whatever, to show this particular handbag is bought directly from Fendi in France or Italy, and sell it to John, and John sell it to Anne sell it to Amy.
Yeah.
It's real with the number and with the certificate card from Fendi.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole intention. That's what we hope to bring, better authenticity recognition to the world. Yeah.
Then you will have a lot of business.
In theory, there's a huge market for brands, for fashion brands to do that because they get a huge damage from counterfeit, right?
Yeah.
Are you aware if they're already working on their own end to do some blockchain anti-counterfeit?
Right. Yeah. They're
initiative.
Right. They are. They're not exactly the designers themselves, but there are probably 7 different competitors who are working on this exact kind of thing around the world, and we are about 8,000% ahead of them.
Okay.
So
you already working with the
we're in
brand?
production. That you can
Are
download.
working with the brand, with some brand?
We are. We're working with a couple of test pilots. One of them is Snoop Dogg's brand called Dope Era. And we want more. So if you know somebody who wants to be part of one of our pilot programs, I would love to start having more of those connections.
What do we get?
What do you get? I don't know. Maybe you get it for free at first.
Brand recognition.
Yeah.
Have you thought about artists, like people who put out, a few paintings or photos or things like that? Not on the digital side, in the real world.
Yeah, so one of our first, we have a few types that we started with at first, and those types are shoes, clothing, handbags, art, and cars, and real estate. And so one of the reasons why I think art is going to be so important is because of the messaging and tracking aspect of it. So if you're having a display of your artwork and you want to know where all your artwork is, right now it's virtually impossible. I mean, the artwork gets lost and you don't know who, and so especially for people who aren't that successful, and so at some point, if you want to message anonymously even all the current owners of everybody who has one of your art pieces, so you can do a gallery showing or something, you will be able to do that with the software, and I think it's actually maybe one of the features that doesn't currently exist in the world, that it's going to give the world something to do. Yeah.
It seems like I'm wondering what the hurdles are to accepting fiat for something like this, because in order to get mass consumer adoption, like, you want to be able to have it be something everybody can use. But in thinking about that, to get it kicked off, what are some of the markets that you could come into that are largely transacted in by people who own crypto and are like on board with that already, like people who own it?
Well, so one of our first partners, the first partner we ever had actually, is a Lamborghini dealership called 777 in Long Beach, and so we're working with them. They're the first one I did the logo replacing the Ethereum address. So if they haven't yet, but if they ever sell a car that's documented in our blockchain to somebody else, then you'll see the 777 logo in the ownership history there, and it's because of the silly thing about buying Lamborghinis with cryptocurrency. So
Not yet.
yeah,
I'm one Bitcoin.
yeah.
I think you're really onto something on the enterprise side, because these companies that are selling the Lamborghinis and all of those companies that stand to gain from an inventory system that are plugged into crypto already, I think are or would jump on there, and then by jumping on there would bring an entire either industry or brand to you. I think that's exciting, because you're actually bringing this business software to them of a lot of value. And I think that point that you made about being able to message forward on the people that have your pieces is valuable too. Reaching people that are like fans of your work or your brand.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, there's another reason why we're sticking to crypto, and that's because of when you start bringing fiat into the equation, there's a lot of it took me 3 months to get this approved in Apple Store. Like, once you start allowing for like fiat transactions, there's this whole other can of worms that you have to comply with. So right now, all this is like made more possible and easier because we're just using crypto. So that's kind of an interesting note. But I would love to, at some point, implement a peer-to-peer fiat payment system and just completely be mainstream about that too. Because this, at the end of the day, this is less about the cryptocurrency and more about the product tracking. And that's the new thing that I think that we are trying to bring to the world. So if people don't want to use Bitcoin, then that's not going to piss me off. What I want people to do is get more organized. I want people to know where their things are. I want people to share more. I want people to be able to know the history of something, to identify things, especially to reuse things. Like, a lot of the reasons why I think that we make so much is because people don't keep track of the things that we've already created. So, like, this is a tracking software a global tracking software for the world, so that the world can start being a little bit more efficient with the way that we use our things. So that's kind of the ultimate sort of philosophical reason. But yeah.
One last thought on that is, if you can transact with cryptocurrency, that's great. That's an added value. But if I give you a check, then I can just hit OK.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, here you get, it's paid. Done. It doesn't matter where the transaction came from, as long as on my side I sign it, then you get the file.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you get the file. There's some other interesting combinations that will come of this, I think, but we'll have to find out. So that's all I have to say. Any other?
Yeah, but so right now, and maybe I missed that at the beginning, but how do you get, so basically you get paid with Bitcoins or other cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, so right now it's sort of like, it's like a Craigslist, but the payment that's allowed is in Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Okay.
And I mean, people could pay each other in cash too. So if you wanted to buy some skis or something like that, and you found it on our app, and then you went and met the person to pick up the skis, and they transfer you the skis, you don't have to pay them in Bitcoin. You can just hand them some cash.
But how did you, so you didn't do any ICO of your own? How did you finance your operations?
Side freelancing, financing myself, yeah. And then I got my friend who's one of my best programmer buddies from years of programming to help me. And it's basically me and him, and then my other co-founder is a lawyer, and it's the three of us. So we never really did any financing, or we couldn't really do an ICO because we were too scared to. And then we never.
Why would you be scared?
Well, I mean, why? Yeah, because of the SEC, because of all the scary things. I mean.
Well, actually, the SEC has mentioned that you can treat an ICO like a private placement. It's not that scary anymore. There's more clarity. I would say during the last several months, and it's structured like issuing securities going out of touch.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like there's so many ICOs out there, and there's so many like scammy things that we don't even want to get mixed up with it. Like at the end of the day, we have a really traditional revenue model, which is you pay a small fee for doing things in our application that you need to do, which is like creating data, sending data, and it's a really small fee. It's like 0.00001 cents at this point, but it can be turned up. But so it's just a transactional fee for things, and then we have the business to business, like the authenticators will have a subscription fee eventually. In order for you, like Fendi will pay us a subscription in order to maintain their status as an authentic Fendi vendor or whatever. And then there's like opportunities for promoting your advertisements in our Craigslist style marketplace. So if you're selling boots and you want to boost them to the top of the search, you pay $5, which is exactly what LetGo and OfferUp do right now. So we have all these regular traditional sort of revenue models, and none of them have to do with sort of like inflating the value of our coin. So if we don't have to go there, there's no reason for us to go there. I don't even want to.
Except that we're finding a way of financing. Right?
Except for finding a way to finance yourself, like I just struggle. I mean, that's it. Like
But you're gonna need a lot of marketing. You're gonna need a lot of marketing money, to get it to retail and to get it to business marketing. That's
right.
The product is there, I understand, or is almost there. But then you have to do the.
You're right. You're 100% right. And so, like, this is a debate that I have with Phil, my the lawyer co-founder, who wants to. He's looking for the right time to get funding. He feels like right now is not the right time because we don't have the proper set of features. But then in like 2 months will be the right time.
It's always the right time.
Yeah, that's my opinion. That's my opinion.
I mean, I think regulated ICO is definitely something you want to look at, especially as like the Jobs Act. Some of this stuff is becoming more clarified. Raising money from not just potential investors, but also people who can help spread your product as well.
Yeah, well, we won't do a security token. We won't do that, and that's me putting my foot down because philosophically I don't like it, but also like legally, like you don't buy Apple stock and then pay for the laptop with Apple stock. And then
In the
there's
past you didn't, but who says in the future you won't?
but right now it's like this. It's not defined clearly what it is. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to peg ourselves or like create a token and then peg our token as something, and then that thing is not what it really is, and then have to deal with making that bad decision.
I think the risk though is if you're 8,000% ahead now, if you don't raise money early, you might find yourself falling behind. Maybe not.
I think that's a valid point. I think that's a valid point, but you know, we're moving along really quickly, and we have a pretty good following on like Twitter and Telegram, and we've managed to organically grow a lot of sort of like minor buzz, and I go to blockchain conventions and I talk to the players in the blockchain world, and I'm hoping to be able to like generate a lot of buzz without too much investment, but we'll see. I agree with you. If my partners were here, I would like them to talk to you and argue that point. But the truth is, like, I sort of understand his point too, in that a lot of these projects, especially blockchain projects, are flying under the assumption that like they will have a product, or that eventually they'll produce. And so like we sort of have the onus to actually produce, and so there's two features that I think are going to be really essential to our product being viable, and that's the messaging, when the messaging is done, and when the public search is done, and both of those are now. And when both those things are done, I think we have a really viable, something that you want to have in your pocket, on your phone. And so when those things are done, I'm going to be, then my co-founder, Phil, I'm going to be like, Phil, now's the time, and I'll not accept no for an answer. We need some marketing.
No, I love it, especially if you guys can capture that inventory, personal stuff management, because think of all the people in the world who have stuff and have no way of tracking, no way of being able to easily lend it to their friend, or have a way of, a barter system. I think there's a lot of potential there, so I like what you're doing.
Thanks. I'm totally I know people who are sort of hoarders, and I'm totally like a clean freak, like a get rid of everything now. I wasn't before, like earlier on, now I'm just like get rid of everything I don't want to have around me. I feel like this organization is like I think it's a really big bonus, and like I want everything to be, so I'm applying to Tile right now, so that we're going to have the Tile API, so that we'll be able to do real-time locations on everything. I mean, and to me, that's a huge bonus. A lot of people don't see that as a bonus, but for me, knowing that your snowboard is in your attic and not in your garage is mind blowing.
Or knowing what friend you lent it to.
Or knowing that
So
Bill has it, and you have one central location
Yeah.
to know where all your stuff is, like to see all that information, to look at your car and see when and you don't have a glove box full of like receipts. You have like your car and service history there, because you have this like central repository for all your data about things, which is not something we have right now. So you buy something from Amazon and you don't get the thing. You buy something from eBay, you don't get the digital thing. Like, you just get the physical thing. But like, you buy like a Beanie Baby, and they create this elaborate description online with like 10 angles of the Beanie Baby. But you get the Beanie Baby in the mail, but you don't get all those 10 angles and all the description. Like, that's also really important. And I think that's going to become more and more important. And this is just the placeholder for all that stuff. And like I said, it's the bucket. And I'm like, that's what I'm creating right now, is that bucket.
It'd be good for like Airbnb properties and anything that's got marketing attached to it.
Yeah, Airbnb, if it's real estate. I mean, real estate's tough. Like, I threw real estate in there as one of the types for this, because I think that real estate is going to start using stuff like this, but there's a lot of real estate companies that are working on their own like blockchain solutions and stuff. I don't know if they're going to want to use Receipt Chain, because they have like their own special, like, the real estate world's very like, I don't know, insular or whatever. But I would love to provide them the tools and say, well, as soon as you guys get fed up because you can't actually do it yourself, like, come knock on my door. So I'm building the tools for them to use it, but they're going to want everything done like their own specific way. But it's just kind of like the field of dreams. You build it and hope they come. So
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Did you say you had 2 or 3 or 4 other competitors out there now?
Well, yeah. So there's so the big competitors are really big. There's like Walton Chain and VChain, which are Chinese companies, and they're doing something similar to this, but they're doing it in a purely business-to-business sense and a purely logistics sense. So they would come to your company and they would say, we're going to put your shipping on the blockchain. We're going to put your coffee on the blockchain, and then you stay within. Then that data stays within that company's fences, and that data belongs to that company. And they have like huge data centers, and they have lots of software devoted to integrating to their ERP systems and becoming their new ERP systems for blockchain for that company. And Receipt Chain is really different because we're approaching it from consumer side in, and saying that that this data is useless by itself. You might as well use a SQL database for tracking your stuff from Africa to Tahoe. If you're going to be talking about the reason why people decentralize things, or the reason why people use a universal repository rather than a private repository, then it has nothing to do with just keeping data fences on things. The main point of all of this is going to be so that the consumer can see where their coffee came from. It's not going to be so that the coffee company can see where their coffee came from. The coffee company knows where their coffee came from. The consumer is the one who doesn't know. And so yeah.
So you're the only person doing it with the consumer centric.
There's one other company in England. The name escapes me, not because I don't want to tell you who they are, but I just can't remember.
Well, my ultimate question is that I wondered if you have a patent, if you had to patent your IP.
We do, yeah. So we have a very lengthy provisional patent on all this, and it actually covers a lot of things from ownership on the blockchain to methods to save this data on the blockchain. Yeah.
Any other questions?
You mentioned Wyoming, and you said something interesting about their utility tokens being allowed to be bought and sold, not treated as security. Can you tell me more about that? Do you know more about that?
Yeah, so they have something where they have a utility token bill, and it has like 3 requirements of your cryptocurrency. And those requirements are that you have to have a functioning app, you have to have a functioning app. Your currency is not, it can't be implied that it owns part of your company.
Okay.
So your currency can't behave like a stock in that way. There's 3 requirements, but those 2 are the most important ones. Is that you have to have a functioning product where it can work right now, and it can't imply any ownership of a company. And then you can start calling it a utility token.
And sell it like a product instead of a security.
Yeah, and sell it like a commodity or something like that.
Like a gift card.
Or like a gift card, that's better. Gift, or
Not
like
a commodity.
Yeah, not a commodity, like a ticket, or like
like a prepaid card.
Pre-product sale.
Right.
Yeah, pre-sale to something,
Right.
which is which is a real condition. I think so. Like we need to have that designation. It's really important. I mean, you can buy pre-sale video games right now. Why can't you buy pre-sale tokens? That represent. Yeah. So there's a lot of silliness. I think there's a lot of there's the people that I talk to. It's a lot of it is driven by lawyers who want who want things to function a certain way, so that you have to go through a certain legal channel in order to do it. Come see me first before you do that. I don't think that's good for business. But
All right. So what was your website again? The domain?
So it's
Twitter.
Yeah. So it's receiptchain.io, and it's available for Apple and iOS. The app is it's a Bitcoin wallet, it's an Ethereum wallet, and the Twitter is receiptchain. And I don't know if any of you guys use Telegram, but it's Receipt Chain channel on Telegram too, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Please check it out and and send me messages and tell me if there's bugs and stuff. Like I found some on the way here. Like I need to know these things. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you for your questions.
Make sure you download it.